Good morning to all my dear students. Hope you all are fine and safe in your homes. So today onward, I am going to start the classes of statistics. During college days, we already covered the introductory part. Then we started the descriptive statistics. Under that, we discussed the various types of the frequency distribution. Then we started the methods of the frequency distribution. Under the method of the frequency distribution, I covered only one method, that was the table. So here I am going to start with the different types of that table. So starting with the different types of the table, the first table is the frequency distribution table. I know I already covered these two types, but we need to recall it once again. The frequency distribution table is that table which represents the frequency and the percentage distribution of the collected information. In this case, the attributes are grouped into the number of classes, and those classes can vary from the 2 to 8 classes. But it mainly has two columns. The first column enlists all the attributes, and the second column gives the frequency of that particular attribute. So as you can see in the example, the first column shows the various attributes and the second shows the frequency of those attributes. So next table is the contingency table, the table that reports the distribution of the nominal variables in the rows and the column. So that table which gives the presentation of the variables into the different rows and columns, that table is known as the contingency table. And why we are using this contingency table? It shows the relationship as well as the association between the different categorical variables. These tables could be 2 into 2, 2 into 3, 3 into 3. It depends on the number of variables, how many variables we are taking. For example, if we want to judge the knowledge of the male and the female regarding the diabetes, so we need to generate these types of the tables. So it shows the various columns as well as the rows. So we can divide that rows or the columns into the according to the poor knowledge, average knowledge, or the good knowledge of the participant. So next is the multiple response table. So in this case, we are using these kind of tables in those situations when the people have more than one answer option. When the people have more than one answer option for the question. In such cases, the sum total of the frequency would exceed the total number of subject, and sometimes it may lead to confusion. Just look at the example. Here I am taking the example, what are the various factors that are affecting on the sleep of the patient who are admitted in the ICU. The total participant or the total subject of the study I am taking here is 60, and the factors who are affecting on the sleep, that are the medication, noises, light, or vital sign monitoring. So the person whose sleep is affected by the medication is whose frequency is 35, whose sleep is disturbed by the various noises generated by the various monitors or anything else, that is 33. The person whose sleep is deprived by the excessive lights present in the ICU, that is the 32. So if we calculate the total frequency, it will exceed than the 60. But so again, moving to the definition, so we are using this kind of the table when the people have more than one answer option. So people are giving more than one answer option. So the person whose sleep is disturbed by the medication can also be disturbed by the various noises. So they are giving more than one answer. So that's why that strength or the total frequency is exceeding than the normal. So these types of the table are known as the multiple response table. Next are the miscellaneous tables. So in every case, we are not able to use the frequency distribution table, contingency table, or the multiple response table. We are using the other table also, like we need to present the mean, median, mode. We are simply presenting these mean, mode, median. So the table we are using to present the data other than the frequency or the percentage distribution, those tables are termed under the miscellaneous table. So mainly tables, types of tables are mainly of four types. One is the frequency distribution table. So the table which shows the attribute in the one column and their frequency in the other column is known as the frequency distribution table. Then contingency table, in which the various variables or the attributes are grouped into the different rows and columns. These tables are used to present the association between the different variables. Those tables are known as the contingency table. Then multiple response table, those table when the people have more than one answer for the same question. So we are using the multiple response table, and other table we are using except these discussed tables, that tables are termed as the miscellaneous table. So after the completion of the table, we are using the number of other methods to describe the frequency distribution. So what are the other methods of the frequency distribution? First one is the bar graph. Bar graph is the one kind of the pictorial information. So it is the convenient pictorial graphical device that is used to represent the frequency distribution. We can show the bar graph either in a vertical order or in the horizontal order. The most frequently it is presented in the vertical bar, and the bars are equally spaced, and mostly where we are using the bar chart, it helps to show the comparison between the two categories or more than two categories. So it shows the comparison. In this case, the x-axis represents the categories and the y-axis represents the value of those categories. Like you can see the picture, the x-axis shows the various categories. Like here I am taking the which fruit is the most nice fruit, like apple, orange, banana, kiwi fruit, and on this side it shows the frequency. How many people like apple, how many people like orange, how many people like banana, so on. So it shows the comparison between how many people prefer to eat blueberries or the grapes or the apples. So it shows the comparison. Then next is the types of the bar graph. First one is the simple bar graph, when we are taking just one category and on the other side that number of for that particular category. Like here I am taking the example of the sports, how many people like soccer, how many people like softball or the basketball, so on. That is the simple form of the bar graph. Then next is the grouped bar graph, in which we are taking the two variables. Like here we are giving the presentation of the scores of the male as well as the scores of the female. Like maths, first one is showing the math score of the males and the math score of the female, and the second is the reading score of the male and female. Then third one shows the writing score of the male and female. So in this case we can group the two categories or the three categories. It depends on the different variables. So that graph is known as the grouped bar graph. Third one is the stacked bar graph. Stacked bar graph, when we want to present anything into the different stacked one upon another. So here we are taking any kind of example like type A, type B, type C, like hepatitis A, B, C. In the first week, how many cases of the hepatitis rises in the second week, third week, so on. When we are taking the any items one upon the another. So that is termed as the stacked bar graph. So next, what are the advantages of the bar graph? First one, it shows the each data category in frequency distribution. It summarizes the large data in the visual form, like how many people like apple, bananas. So the large data we can summarize in the visual form. And the other one, it clarifies the trends better than the table. So sometimes it is confusing one, like how to understand the table, but it is better to understand by the picture, so it is easily understood. And regarding the disadvantage of the bar graph, it often requires the additional explanation. Sometimes the information provided by the pictures is not sufficient. We need to explain more regarding that. Then it failed to expose better the causes, impact or the pattern, just is showing the comparison. Then using too many or too few classes can mask the important pattern. Like if you are taking only one class or the two classes, it doesn't look nice to make a bar graph. And sometimes too you are taking so many classes and it will hide the important information. Sometimes difficult to read in the groups. Okay, the next is the histogram. It is the most accurate graph that represents the frequency distribution. In this case, the class interval are plotted on the x-axis and the frequency on the y-axis. The class interval, here we are taking the class interval that are plotted against the x-axis and the frequency on the y-axis. And each interval is represented by the separate rectangles. Here you can see the histogram. So on the x-axis you can see we are representing the various class intervals like 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, and on this side on the y-axis we are taking the frequency. Here it doesn't mean 0, it means origin. So next we will discuss the difference in the histogram